Hello everyone and welcome to my Polish cuisine. My name is Betty and today I am making a popular Polish dish and they are called Pyzy z Mięsem. So in other words, they are dumplings, potato dumplings filled with meat. The ingredient list will be underneath this video, but basically what we need is I have here 2 kilograms of potatoes and I'm going to peel them. After I peel them, I'll probably have like 1.5 kilograms. With this, I have 1 onion. I need some all-purpose flour, some potato flour, and salt. Now, when the pizzas are cooked, I will use some bacon. I will cut it up into cubes and then fry it. And I will add the onion just because our family likes it with onion. And the filling is made out of meat. It could be basically any meat, preferably pork. And you could use your rosu meat if you have anything like that. Beef or pork is probably the best. But people use chicken and turkey and all kinds of things. So. And here I have 500 grams of this meat. It has quite a lot of fat on it, so this will be perfect. I'm gonna boil it and then add an onion to the water and then cook it until tender. Once it's tender, we cool it off and then we grind the meat. And with the meat, once grinded, here I have some marjoram, which is about 1 tablespoon. I have 2 garlic cloves. One is a bigger one, one's a small one. So that's why I did 2. I have some butter here because the meat will be a little bit dry after we cook it. So just to give it some creaminess, this is what we use. Here I have some oregano, a little bit of thyme, and a little bit of the dried parsley. That's basically it as far as the meat. So for every 1 liter of water that we will boil these dumplings in, we will use one tablespoon of the potato flour and 1 teaspoon of salt, just to make sure that they don't fall apart. And one thing I didn't mention, I used the Idaho russet potatoes for this because they contain the most starch. So this is what you want to use. Make sure you have some starchy potatoes. And basically that's it. So let me get started. So let me move this aside. And I am going to start out with my meat. I am going to cut this meat into smaller pieces because it'll cook faster, of course, than in this one big piece. But you can also cook it in just one piece. It really doesn't matter. Place it in the pot. So once you have your meat in the pot, turn your burner on for medium heat. What I'm doing right now is I have hot water here, as you can tell, to preserve a lot of the flavors in the meat, just gently covering it. Don't overfill. This is fine. Now I'm going to add my salt and the onion to this, and we're gonna cook it until it's tender, probably for about up to 30 minutes. So now I am going to cut the bacon. You may cut it however you want it, into little pieces. First, I want to remove this skin from the back. I just cut it into small cubes. And I place it in the pan. So I have my cut up bacon here, and this is over medium heat for now. And make sure that you stir it from time to time. And once this browns, it depends on how much you want to brown it, how you like it. You may add onion, you may not. It's really up to you, but since we like the onion, I will add it towards the end when it gets a little bit browned. And now the potatoes. So this onion will go into the grind potatoes, grind it. And I'm gonna peel all of those and divide them into two. So the best way, if you don't have a scale, is to cut these in half. So you know that it's gonna be about a half, and half of them will go here into the pot to be boiled, and half of them will be grinded. I just added my chopped onion, yellow onion, into the bacon. And I will let this fry until it's like golden brown, not overly done. Potatoes are now peeled and divided. Here is the onion. So these potatoes will be cooked. I am going to pour some hot water over them and cook them with salt. And these ones are gonna go into my mixer. I'm gonna grind it in there with the onion, and then we're gonna combine the two. It looks like my bacon is ready, and the onion is nicely browned, translucent. So I will take it off heat and set it aside. Now I am adding boiled water over the potatoes. And it's not really just so they cook quicker. It's just really so that you preserve a lot of the vitamins and the minerals in them. And I'm going to salt the water. Salt it. And mix it. And I'm going to cover the pot. And right now I have it over medium heat, so I'm gonna put it over high heat, and then we'll reduce it once they come to boil and just simmer them until tender. And check on your meat, make sure that it is tender. Once it's tender, let's remove it and grind it. Make sure to check on your potatoes, and these still need a little bit. And now I'm checking on my meat, and my meat is tender, so I'm going to get it off heat and remove it. I'm gonna place it in the bowl and let it cool off so that I can grind this. Now I am going to grind my meat. The meat is now nicely grinded. So what I'm gonna do with it is put spices to it. But in the meantime, Let's check on the potatoes that are boiling. And they will be tender pretty soon. And now it's time to place my spices in the grinded meat. So first thing is the marjoram. And what I like to do is kind of crush it in between the two hands. And place the remaining ingredients. Here goes the oregano. Thyme. And the garlic. Stir this all in. And the meat is pretty dry right now. So, reason why I put a little bit of the butter in to make it creamy. You can also add your rosu or a little bit of the soup that you had. It's creamier with the butter in it. So now the meat is all mixed up, and what I do basically is I take about a teaspoon of the filling, and I form little balls. If you want it bigger, you can make it bigger, and set it aside on the parchment paper. Depends on how big you want your pyzy or dumplings to be. If you want them bigger, then make a little bit of a bigger ball. So I was able to make 20 balls, like golf size balls from the meat. And now I'm going to work on my potatoes. And potatoes are now done. I'm going to spill the water out and let them cool. So while the cooked potatoes are cooling off, I am going to puree my potatoes, the fresh potatoes that needed to be grinded. So I just put them in a mixer, a few at a time, cut into small pieces, and I hit. Now at the end, I will add the cut onion. It's the yellow onion. Transfer the potatoes to a bowl. And add 1 tablespoon of the salt. Mix it well. We're going to strain these through the gauze or a cotton cloth if you have one. That would be great. is my gauze. And now I'm going to place all these potatoes in here. And squeeze the excess water from it. And you will need some strong hands for this as you do it, because we want as little water in it as possible. And make sure that you do not get rid of this water, because there will be some starch that will form on the bottom, and we're going to use this for this dough. And there's still lots of water. So now when I'm done with this gauze, as you can tell, the potatoes are squeezed already, and as you can tell, the little ball right there, and this type of a consistency is what you want. It's almost, you can form it into a ball right now, and that doesn't stick to your hands at all. So this is how it needs to be. And now I'm going to combine the two doughs, which is adding the cooked potatoes to this, but first I have to put it through the press. So now you're gonna have to work with this dough with your hand. I just washed my hands because you have to feel this dough. And the longer you mix it, the looser it will be. So we don't want that. So now I'm going to add to this some of the all-purpose flour and see how that's gonna be. I have 3 tablespoons here. I also have some potato flour, which is the starch, but I also have some starch in here forming at the bottom, if you can tell, the white stuff. So that's the starch from the potatoes. I don't use any eggs, because if you were to put an egg in here, you would have to keep adding more flour, and the more flour, the tougher and harder the dough will get. So by all means, please do not use any eggs unless you have a good recipe. And this dough, to me, is perfect. It doesn't even stick to my hand, so there's no need for any flour here. The only thing I'm gonna do now is add the starch from the potatoes. And there is not a lot of starch in here, as you can tell. It may be just like a teaspoon. So I'm just adding that in. Into the dough. Yeah, this dough really feels good. So now what I do is I'm going to place some of my potato flour, and I have some here. This is potato flour on the board here, the cookie sheet. And make sure you have potato flour for this. Spread it out, because once you make those dumplings, they have to be on a flour. Flour meaning potato flour. They can't touch the pan or anything because the dough is delicate and it may rip. So now I take a little bit of the dough, and you just have to see that this is probably like 1.5 size of these balls, and then you just make a little circle out of it, put the ball inside and cover it. And to make it into a little ball. And let's set it aside here. And the same with the remaining ones. Form a little ball. It's almost similar to if you were making something like pierogi, but this dough is just very delicate. And then roll it in your palms into a ball and set it aside. And the next one. And now my dumplings are done. I only had 3 that I ran out of the dough, so that's okay. I will save it or freeze it for pierogi or something like that. Here I have 4 tablespoons of potato flour, 4 teaspoons of salt, and I'm gonna mix this with some water and then put it in my boiling water for the dumplings. Here I have 4 liters of water, and it just was boiling, so I'm gonna pour into it that starch with salt that I made. And that way it prevents the dumplings from falling apart as well. So let me wait till it boils again. And now into the boiling water, I'm going to gently place, make sure you have something like this, a little spatula, place the dumpling on here and gently let it go. Don't mix it. It'll come up by itself. And once they resurface back to the top, let's cook them for 5 minutes. So now the dumplings are cooking. They're resurfacing to the top. So let's give them about 5 minutes to cook. And they should be good to eat. And now they surface to the top and none broke. So I cook them for about 5 minutes and they are ready to eat.